I came into my role about 10 months ago and spoke with Andre Heinz and his mom and his brothers. It was pretty clear to me that one of the priorities that I would want to pursue coming into the foundation would be to look at this notion of urban centers as drivers of sustainability and innovation, and that was going to be a really important priority, not just for the Heinz Endowments in the coming years, but for Pittsburgh. So I asked Bruce Katz at Brookings and John Manicherry to basically blow up for me everything I thought I knew about those subjects. And one of the people they introduced me to is our guest that I'll be speaking with, who is Jesper Nygård, who does something very similar to what a number of us foundation leaders in the room do, but he does it from the unique perspective of where he is and the international arena in which he plays. So Jesper, first of all, welcome. Thank you for being here. Would you tell us a little bit about Realdania?
Yes, and thank you, and thank you for having me here. It's a great honor for me to be here in this wonderful city, and very interesting to hear about your perspective and your very, very interesting and very ambitious work. I'm coming from a foundation in the Nordic countries, and here you can see a little map of United States, and if you go far east to a place where two of the other colleagues and states have been from Sweden, I'm from the neighbor country, Denmark. And we have a lot of cooperation in the Nordic country. We fight when it's about soccer, but when it's about livability and trying to create good societies, we try to work together. But when I'm talking about the perspective from my organization, Realdania, you have to understand the context. We are a very small country. We are 5 million Danes, 1/3 of Greater New York, 1/4 of state of Pennsylvania, the double amount of the metropolitan area of Pittsburgh. That's the whole country of Denmark. So we are a tiny place in the world. It's another way of system. We have a very high tax. We have a welfare system, not welfare being grants to the individual, but we have a safety net in our society. I've been working with that a long time, since the Second World War. And then, as the most important thing here, we speak Danish, so I hope you can understand my English for today. I'm going to try to tell you a little bit about how we are funded and how we are created. We are a Danish foundation, and we are not really a foundation. I'll get back to that in a minute. We used to own a mortgage institute for 200-300 years. We sold it in year 2000, and when we did that, we had this board, nice men and one woman who were standing there, used to earning money to keep the pocket, to keep the wallet in the pocket, and now they had to take the wallet out and use the money, which is a very, very big shift of running a business. So we have been in this business for 15 years, trying to donate money. Since we are not a foundation, we have a history back to the fire of Copenhagen in 1795. Danes are very organized in associations. All Danes are members of a lot of associations. Our agricultural system, our non-profit housing sector system, and our mortgage system is based on people being members. And we came from this system, so we continued. We're not today a foundation. We are a member-based association with 150,000 members in Denmark, and our purpose with that is we're similar to a foundation, we're similar to a fund, but we are a member-based philanthropic organization. And the way we work is our money comes from the built environment, and our money has to go back to the built environment. So we have spent these 15 years very much inspired by American foundations, trying to be talented in bringing people together to create solutions on a lot of the topics this conference is about. Our aim is to improve the quality of life for the Danes through the built environment. We were founded in year 2000. We had $2 billion. Today we have 4 billion, and we have delivered 4 billion to society on all kinds of issues. So our aim is to work together. We have been focusing. Now we work in 5 programs, a lot of things about sustainability, a lot about cities, a lot about the rural areas, a lot about how we create quality for people. But our way of doing it is very much trying to inspire people to work together. Our main thesis is things you can't do alone, maybe you can solve them if you do it together. We use, and that's very important for me to say, this is a Swedish sentence. I think you know Pippi Longstocking, even over here on the other side of the Atlantic. It's a Swedish children's book, and Pippi is a very strong, very powerful girl who can lift a horse, and she says, when you are very strong, you have to be very nice. And that's our philosophy. We have a lot of money, we intervene in a lot of processes, and we have to do that in a very talented and a very leveraged way in order to try to create solutions.
That's terrific. I have to interject a question or people are going to wonder what I'm doing up here.
Yeah.
So when I listen to you, I wonder too. So, thank you. You know, so you were very nice when we met, talking about how you took the model for these programs from what you saw in U.S. foundations. But your examples are very different and they're very concrete. So can you talk a little bit about those?
Yes, I can. We try to do something where normally a little amount of money is creating a big change. One of the examples, and I think that one of the speakers later on today is going to mention that, is a project where which we call, I think I pressed the wrong button or something, somebody else did. It's a project called Loop City. Loop City is a very traditional thing in the suburban areas. In Copenhagen, we have this plan, a finger plan, where you have Copenhagen in the palm, and then you have all these 5 directions out of Copenhagen. And it's always been a problem how to connect across the fingers. And we said, we have to there's 10 mayors along this line from the 5 fingers. There's 10 mayors, and there's 1 Lord Mayor, and there's a responsible minister for traffic and transportation. And they have been discussing all kinds of different solutions for a lot of years. And we said, maybe if we just trying to make it possible for them to take a decision. So normally a foundation would come with hundreds of millions of dollars trying to create the solution. We came with $1 million and a secretariat and some people who could think a solution. We make a tender, and BIC was winning that, and you can hear one of the partners from BIC later on. And BIC is thinking big. We just asked them to connect the 5 fingers, but they connected all the way up to the north. This is going to Sweden and all the way around, and we haven't realized that. But this plan here, within 10 months, the Danish government and these 10 mayors made a solution where they spent more than half a billion US dollar creating a light rail. So this little part of money created on the right scene, bringing the right people together, created a very interesting way of solving a problem. Another example is suburban areas, non-profit social housing, where we're trying to bring partners together, local authorities, housing association, government, bring them together, and instead of doing it, we have been spending billions of dollars trying to have these areas to work better. And I'm not saying we have the solution, but we're trying to bring new partners along the table. So we don't donate the very big amount of money to make these houses better, but we donate the money to try to bring the right people domestically and internationally to the table. So that method has shown very helpful for our perspective, trying to solve some of the very difficult problems in your society and in our society.
Now, part of what we're talking about today is it gets into the issue of planning and how you do what you're describing on a scale. So the the loop concept around transit clearly requires planning. So does this. So how do you approach the issue of planning as a foundation and supporting that work?
We do a lot of initiatives about planning. And again, we try to help bring the right partners along the table to set a new agenda. Maybe the word trying to have a new mindset. A lot of the issues mayors in our society is struggling with is big, complex problems which cannot be solved by them alone. And I think one of the main thing after COP15 in Denmark was that it was obviously that the leaders of the state couldn't solve the climate problem alone. And I think maybe everybody says it was a failure, the Copenhagen COP15, and for some reasons it was, but I think it was an eye-opener that the climate issues cannot be solved by the state leaders alone. They have to cooperate with mayors, they have to cooperate with private sector, they have to cooperate with civil society, and the same in the planning way. And we're trying some different places to help local authorities. Here in Billund, which is a headquarter of Lego, we're trying together with big, and a lot of places we do it with companies you know, Gel Architect or Big, and a lot of places we do it with companies you don't know. But we're trying to bring the right partners in together with the excellent staff of the local authorities, the mayors, maybe the government, maybe other private partners, trying to, with a little amount of money, to make a huge financial gearing. So a new mindset is easier. It's easier for the mayors to do difficult decisions if they're inspired and if they can get evidence for some of these things. So we do that in Billund, which is a very interesting place, interesting example. We do that in a suburb to Copenhagen called Ballerup, where we have taken a lot of suburbs. We had a campaign, a call around suburbs, and we're getting more and more pinned to the point that sustainability is very important. We have to make more dense cities. We have to have less sprawl. And some of these plans, bringing the right partners around the table, makes it easier for the cities to take decisions that they couldn't take alone. So I think the system we do it is trying to inspire. We do this in Odense, where 40 years ago they took Odense as a mid-place of Copenhagen, where Hans Christian Andersen was born, and they took the mid-city 40 years ago and ruined it with a 4-lane highway going right across the mid-city. Right now we have removed that road and trying to create livable space for bicycles, for homes, for people, instead of just for cars. So we're trying to do this. In this place, it's not just about bringing new people around the table. In this place, we're doing investments, trying to do this, but still gearing it so we can do a lot more than we could do just with our money.
And not just locally, you're working internationally as well.
We mainly work domestically in Denmark, but we do something if there's a story, if there's a hook to put it back. And one of the examples on international work is C40. Together with Children Investment Fund Foundation from United Kingdom and Bloomberg Philanthropy from United States, we financed C40 in 2014, 15, and 16, which is a very good example on bringing leaders together, bringing mayors together from big cities and innovator cities, trying to facilitate that the knowledge is going around the world. When you're talking about DVDs and music, copying is illegal. But when you're talking about livability, copying is legal. Copying is a way of doing it, trying to take ideas and try to have them work other places.
And you're, I was thinking about your mention of the word sustainability and how you're going about that. And there's an article in this morning's Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, I don't know if many of you saw it, but a column by George Will, a reprint of a column, prominent US conservative columnist on these issues, who attacks sustainability as coercion. Is this something that you encounter in your work? Before we move to the next slide about how you work, do you encounter that sort of negativism as you talk about sustainability?
For us, trying to focus in which is very American inspired, trying to focus in 5 programs and 10 initiatives. Sustainability is not an initiative by itself, but all we do is we try to do it as sustainable as possible, trying to be problem-driven, trying to find ways of solving some of the sustainable problems. So definitely we try to push the sustainability agenda in all kinds of levels, both you could say domestically, but the reason we go to C40 is that a lot of the sustainability, the CO2 emission and the pollution, a lot of these factors is not created in the individual countries or in the individual cities. They don't know borders, so we have to do this together. We don't see a critical dimension on what we do on sustainability, and we don't see a critical dimension for real in our society. We have done a lot of things trying to remove waste, try to use waste for district heating. Copenhagen now have district cooling too. We're trying to do a lot of these things, and I think it's an agenda not only for the politicians, but also for the people. People like that agenda.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how you do that. We have in this room people who are developers, designers, architects, people who are in the foundation world, in the nonprofit world, in the government world, academic world. I'm looking around the room and thinking about who I'm missing, but we have all of these sectors represented. It's a very typical Pittsburgh thing to see at a gathering like this, the folks from the community who actually are in a position to make a difference. How do you put those pieces together in your work?
It's very, very, very seldom we take a project and do it by ourselves. I would say foundation work 10, 15, 20 years ago very often was one project, one foundation. And for a lot of foundations worldwide, it's been very important to have this bronze plaque saying this is donated by. For us, it's important to know that we have been there, because we have to have legitimacy to donate the money. But for us, it's not important to be there alone. For us, it's always important to be there together with somebody else. So we use a lot of energy trying to be the enzyme who finds the right partners, trying to find the right from the academic world, to find the right place to do this in the local authority, trying to find the right other foundations. And I would say right now we have 680 projects running with a total investment around $5 billion, where we donate half of it. And in 80% of these projects, we have partners from other foundations. So it's been very important for us to work together with other foundations. We learn from it, and that's why we are in C40, besides the climate angle. Being so close to Children Investment Fund Foundation and Bloomberg is a very good learning process for us, and hopefully we give something back to them as well. So this about facilitating that the right people are meeting is a very, very important part of our strategy.
And I'm trying to lead into a really nifty slide that you have that illustrates your working philosophy. So I'd love you to expand on that, if you would.
Yeah, you can say that's the way we say what we have to do is make co-creation. We cannot solve the big problems by ourselves. And I think my example before from COP15, I think is very important. And there's a lot of people touring around with a slide saying, if mayors rules the world. And I think that is almost as wrong as if state leaders ruled the world, because they cannot do this without each other. Mayors can be very clever and very talented, and I think we just met one of them, but they can't do it without the framework from the legislation. So the government has to set some frames, the mayors have to fill them out, but do it together with civil society, business leaders, individuals, volunteers, all kinds of people. So if we're going to solve some of these extremely difficult problems, the very complex one, we have to lift us up in the helicopter and make this new mind-setting agenda saying we cannot solve these problems alone. We have to do it together. And some of these problems are so complex that maybe we cannot solve them, but for sure we cannot do it alone. Maybe we could do it together. So our philosophy is to work very problem-driven, very agenda-setting, trying to take some real agendas, and being a member-based organization, we have some legitimacy to do this. We are not politicians. We work together with society. We don't work against society. We're trying to help to find the ways around problems, trying to go out in the world to try to find good solutions that we can build on and help with. So our aim is to bring things to scale and have the guts to advocate good solutions. And that is extremely fun and an extremely nice place to work, but it's extremely helpful methods too.
You seem like a guy who would speak his mind, so talk about the courage piece a little bit, and why it requires courage to take on these issues.
It's very important when you do this that you are based on fact. You're not based of your gut feeling. You're based on facts, you're based on figures, you're based on evidence. And if you have to raise very difficult agendas, trying to bring people together who are not usually like to work together, bring them in the same room, try to have these people, we cannot solve the problem on the agricultural parts of Denmark if we if we don't bring both the environmentalists and the farmers together in the same room, and they're not people who dance together usually. So we have to bring them together and create a room where they are safe in the discussion. And being the part who facilitates that, we have to be trusted. We have to be trusted that we don't take very rare agendas and very that we're not based on truth or facts, at least not truth, but facts. So we try to do that, and it works. Sometimes we say something that people disagree, and then we stand for what we're saying if it's based on evidence.
So bringing people together, basing the conversation on fact, I think a lot of us in this room would look at this diagram and think this is also a Pittsburgh model. We'd have a few more mayors involved in your Loop City concept. We'd have about 135 rather than 10. So maybe it's a little higher order of complexity. But what would be your last parting message to Pittsburgh about what we should learn from the work that you do?
I agree that the complexity is higher, and maybe it requires a little bigger meeting room. but the method is the same. The method is the same. You have to trust each other, and you have to trust to open the door to bring other interests and other parties in, because you cannot solve the complex problems by yourself.
Jesper, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, it's in fact no accident that Jesper and Grant look like two singer-songwriters. The guitars are coming out, and they will actually finish with the Simon and Garfunkel of urban sustainability. I think it's an act that should continue. Jesper, again, the reality check. What are the prospects for these guys? What do you see? What have you heard? How do you feel about what can happen next for P4 and the city?
I think there's an extremely good energy in this. I think the program, the initiative, the ambitions are so high. So there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of. I totally agree on the perspective that the mayor said earlier this morning, that this can work, and this is a city with a lot of perspective. It's a beautiful city, has a lot of perspective, and bringing all these people together is a very good initiative.
Okay. Grant, give us a quick flavor of what you took away from the Nordic tour that culminated to some extent in Jesper's presentation. What is your sense of the relevance of that of the experience that you saw in October?
It's two things, John. One is Pittsburgh is in a pretty good place. We have enormous assets. We do a lot of the things that we should be doing to move forward. But the second takeaway is that the world is moving fast, and on anything that we want to take credit for and celebrate, take, for example, the redevelopment of the riverfront. When River Life started that work, that was new. And now cities around the world are doing it and moving fast on every front that we want to be competitive on. So I think the other takeaway was there are other places we can learn from, and we ought to learn fast.
Guys, do you think you're going to carry on collaborating, or are you just going to get on a plane and head off? What's next for this conversation between you two?
That's a forced marriage, isn't it?
I'm hustling.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think right now the issue is how do we continue to learn from each other? How do our cities learn from each other? One of the guests in the room is a guest from Copenhagen Business School who is talking with folks at Carnegie Mellon about a collaboration between our cities. So I hope to see a lot more of this.
I agree. You just brought us from being some country singers to go straight to the bar. But I think we can learn a lot from each other. And that perspective we're always open for. Great. Learning is the way of having a better world.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.